Welcome to MTN Outdoors.
Welcome back to MTN Outdoors. I'm Tom Buchanan and I'll be your guide on this week's episode. We start this episode on a story out of Wyoming, where a man is under fire after bringing an injured wolf into a bar and kept the wolf alive for some time with its mouth taped shut. Haley Monaco has the latest details, but first we want to warn you that some of the images and videos may be disturbing to viewers.
One small town in Wyoming is making headlines across the nation after photos of a man with a live wolf were released. He was fined for the situation initially, but many are hoping for higher penalties. Many eyes have been on Daniel, Wyoming recently, a town with a population of just over 100 people due to one man's actions on February 29th.
A signal needs to be sent that this should never be permitted in a civilized society. Never.
Outrage has formed across the nation after this photo was initially released by Wyoming newspaper Cowboy State Daily.
He committed an act of cruelty.
Later, Wyoming Game and Fish released a video of Cody Roberts of Daniel, Wyoming, kissing the wolf's snout and other footage of the wolf in the Green River bar. Roberts eventually killed the wolf.
I don't care what animal it is, it does not deserve to suffer.
Avid hunter from Hardin, Montana, Jerome Vandersloot says he is anti-wolf, but is still sickened by Roberts' actions.
I can tell you a real hunter would not do anything like that.
Roberts was initially fined $250 for possessing a live wild animal. 80% of Wyoming is a predator zone, meaning wolves can be hunted year-round without a license or tag.
$250 is nothing, is not a penalty given the horror of his behavior.
Wayne Pacelli, the president of Animal Wellness Action, a nonprofit advocating for animal rights, says Roberts needs to face animal cruelty charges. But Wyoming Game and Fish released a statement saying predatory animals are not managed by the department and animal cruelty laws do not apply to predatory animals.
Wyoming does make it a felony to engage in malicious mistreatment of animals. And that's exactly what occurred here. And I won't settle. And I know millions of Americans won't settle for anything less than that.
The Sublette County Sheriff's Office is now actively investigating the incident.
Me, as a hunter that abides by all the laws, I believe these guys should be made an example of.
MTN News did reach out to phone numbers associated with Cody Roberts, but never received a response back. Reporting in Billings for MTN News, I'm Haley Monaco.
Hunting season usually begins in the fall, but for black bear hunters, they know now is the time for the spring black bear hunt.
There's a few things that black bear hunters need to keep in mind that are unique to black bear hunting. One is a mandatory harvest reporting requirement. And so within 48 hours of harvesting a black bear hunters must call in to report their harvest.
Also, for regions 2 through 7 in Montana, black bear hunters must take their carcass to an FWP office within 10 days of harvest. Biologists need to quickly see it and do a little dental work on it.
Usually what happens is biologists will pull a tooth from that black bear to submit for some age testing. And that age testing helps us as we put together a picture of how the overall population is doing for black bears.
Hunters in extreme northwest Montana, Region 1, need to submit just the tooth. Now check the regulations for the proper process. The big need for black bear hunters is the requirement that they can recognize a black bear versus a grizzly bear. In fact, you have to pass an identification test to be licensed to hunt black bears.
When you're in the field, that's a distinction that you have to be able to make every time. When you have a bear in your sights, you need to know with absolute certainty if that's a black bear or a grizzly bear. So take extra time to learn that process, and when you're in the field, make sure you're absolutely certain that what you're harvesting is a black bear. And if you have any doubt at all, just don't take the shot, right? Wait for the next one, and it'll save you a big headache.
As a reminder, that big headache, a potential court appearance. It's still illegal to shoot a grizzly bear in the state of Montana. Near Bozeman, Chet Lehman, MTN News.
Right behind me here at Canyon Ferry Lake, you might be able to make out a bunch of black dots on the surface of the water. Those are actually lines of Christmas trees strung together with steel cable with cinder blocks attached. Eventually, those lines of Christmas trees will sink to the bottom and become habitat for perch. Brave DNRC employees like Jacob Stevens wait near the trees for DNRC helicopters to dip low enough over the Silos campground area just north of Townsend to attach the line to the bottom of the helicopter as part of the Pines for Perch initiative.
So we call this a hover hookup, and basically you're standing there letting the helicopter come to you and hooking it directly to the hook underneath, and then you've got a guy marshalling using hand signals to call in the helicopter. So this is a good experience for people that haven't done it before because you get multiple repetitions, and so it lets them be familiar and comfortable under the helicopter.
Over the next few hours to days, these trees will take on water weight and sink about 15 feet to the bottom of the lake, where they will be used by perch for spawning habitat. FWP has been doing this annually since 1999 due to declining perch levels, a fish that not only satisfies anglers, but predator fish as well.
Perch are unique. Not only are they one of the principal game species on Canyon Ferry Reservoir, they're also one of the principal forage species. And so for walleye to exist, we need to have a robust population of perch. And of course, the anglers like to come out and catch perch and keep them themselves too. So you got man versus predator fish out there. Both of them have taken their turn at consuming perch.
Wade Hendricks, Area Aviation Officer for Montana DNRC, has noticed a significant dip in donated trees the last few years, including hundreds fewer trees donated this year when compared to last year. With Christmas coming around only once a year, Hendricks encourages folks to think about the way their trees can support an important species.
You know, when people are getting rid of their Christmas trees at the end of the holiday season, maybe just think about taking them to the transfer station in Helena, or the Boy Scouts will do curbside pickup for the used Christmas trees as well.
Reporting from Canyon Ferry Lake, Tom Buchanan, MTN News. Coming up after the break, we'll learn about forest health and the impacts of mills leaving Montana. But first, it's time for some trivia. Ospreys are common in Montana, but also live in other places in the world too. How many continents can you find osprey? That answer coming up after the break. Welcome back. So, do you know how many continents osprey are on? Also known as fish hawks, osprey eat a diet primarily made up of fish. Those fish actually provide the osprey most of the hydration that it needs, meaning that the osprey don't really need to drink that much water. Osprey can be found on every continent except Antarctica.
Montana is in a forest management crisis, a crisis that has been declared on both the state and federal levels. And this is because of prior years of mismanagement and fire mitigation that has allowed large amounts of overgrowth, which in turn acts as fuel for wildfires. And with this complicated system to manage the forest, the decline of the lumber industry has also further complicated the situation.
We are dealing with a forest health and wildfire crisis in the state of Montana. For a number of different reasons over time, our forests have become overgrown, more diseased, more fire prone, and we're all familiar with the smoke that we're breathing all summer from these large catastrophic wildfires.
That was Sean Thomas, Division Administrator for the Montana Department of Natural Resources and Conservation. He is in charge of overseeing the management of all public land trusts for the state, as well as generating revenue through commercial timber sales for K-12 schools. The timber sales that he oversees in large part come from the mills across the state, including Pyramid Mountain Lumber and Roseburg Forest Products. The upcoming closures of the two mills, both major employers in western Montana, are creating economic concerns. Whether it's from the large number of people that are soon to be out of a job, a reduction in revenue for schools, or the support that the communities around the mills receive. But besides the economic concerns, there's also the worry about how this will affect forest health. The mills play a key role in forest management and wildfire mitigation.
That workforce also is our workforce, right? The loggers, the log truck drivers, the contractors that supported Pyramid and relied on them for the well-being of their businesses are the people who are oftentimes buying our timber sales or bidding on our fuels reduction contracts. So the health of that community is a concern.
Forest management is a process that helps maintain forests through brush clearing, logging, and prescribed burns. According to Thomas, forests in Montana have been mismanaged in the past. Thomas says there was an effort on letting forests grow and preventing fire at almost all cost. As the years of this type of management progressed, issues began to emerge, mainly the overgrowth and disease that became common in almost all forests across the state. The focus now has been on clearing overgrowth and making sure that the forests are able to complete its natural cycle of growth and replacement mainly through fire. Despite all the challenges that forest management currently faces, it will continue to progress the health of our forest due to the government agencies and their private partnerships, as well as community support. And hopefully, after a lot of hard work, we'll be pulled out of this crisis. In Missoula, I'm Zach Fulheim, MTN News.
If you think the National Guard does not test its soldiers' strength enough, they hold a competition to see who is the best warrior.
This highlights what we have to go through to really basically defend and deter those peers out there to know that we're there, and it shows the skills that we have to give them the confidence so they can just go normally in their daily life.
15 National Guard members competed this year in over 25 events, which tested their physical and mental strength. Some of these events included inventory checks, target shooting, correctly using equipment like radios, and written tests. 22-year-old Quentin Spring from Great Falls has been a firefighter in the Air National Guard for 3 years and can now also claim the title of Best Warrior.
It was a surprise, but I'm very humbled and honored, so it was pretty awesome. I don't get to do a lot of this stuff on the air side, so it was a lot of trying to figure everything out as I went.
Spring had to navigate some events that he was not exactly familiar with as a National Guard airman. He said he does not do land navigation or use some of the weapons that the Army National Guard does.
At least for me, I need to put myself in situations like this where I'm uncomfortable to grow as a person and as an airman and everything. So put yourself in those situations and just do it.
Hunter Grunherd is a 28-year-old police officer from Livingston. He joined the Army National Guard 4 years ago and won Best Warrior Non-Commissioned Officer.
It's a lot of stress. It's been a long week, not a lot of sleep, so you're kind of going event to event. You don't know what's coming up.
Both Spring and Grunherd say they found the Norwegian Ruck March to be most challenging. It started around midnight and competitors marched 18.6 miles while loaded down with equipment.
At mile 15, you start to go to a dark place, so you got to learn about yourself and push yourself a little bit. So.
Spring will not be able to compete in the regional Best Warrior competition because it is only for Army National Guard members. Instead, he earned a free Army course. Grunherd will be competing in regionals next month in Washington State.
I'm excited to see how I stand up to some of the other states in our region.
In Helena, Allie Kaiser, MTN News.
While many are grateful for the warm weather we've seen so far this year, it brings some negative implications. Billings police say when the sun comes out, so do the motorcyclists. And as the number of riders on the road rise, so do the crashes.
There's plenty of road, there's plenty of room.
If you ride a motorcycle, you know there's nothing quite like an open road.
The freedom is amazing.
But that freedom comes with responsibility.
There's riders out there that don't respect the roads at all.
In Billings, the warm weather is returning, and so are the motorcyclists. But a recent string of motorcycle-involved crashes is causing concern for motorists and police.
I mean, it's tragic.
We know people, that like to get out and ride motorcycles. They like to get out and enjoy the weather, get the air, wind blowing in your face, and that comes with high speeds as well.
On March 31st, 2 motorcycles collided on Broadwater, killing one of the drivers, 32-year-old Eric Osgood. Then, on April 3rd, another motorcycle collision on State in Washington that killed one. Another accident on April 4th luckily didn't claim any lives, but left the driver with serious injuries. Which is why Tina Gaspar recently took to Facebook, attempting to level with non-riders.
I was basically reaching out to the parents of this because it was a new driver, a young kid. These new drivers that are out there, make sure they know and that they're looking for motorcycles.
Sergeant Jeff Stovall says the fatalities are unfortunately nothing out of the ordinary and fears it's just the start.
I think it seems like it's a spike right now, but it's not. We're just starting the spring season earlier than typically we do. We see fatalities and motorcycle crashes and that as well.
A new controversial law took effect in October of 2021, allowing lane splitting in Montana. But Stovall says so far that hasn't led to more crashes.
If anything, we've seen, just your typical, low injury, a bumper fender bender type thing.
Montana is one of 32 states that doesn't require helmets, although Stovall says they do save lives. Regardless, with summer approaching, Stovall and Gaspar have a reminder for both cars and motorcycles.
Make sure you're with your surroundings before you change lanes, whether it's a car or a motorcycle. Not excess speeds and that type of thing as well.
Just be aware. And if you are the rider, be smart, pay attention. If you're driving a car, be smart, pay attention.
In Billings, Kelsey Boggs, MTN News.
Coming up after the break, it's the ropes and the reins and the joy of the pain. We're headed to the rodeo.
We now return to MTN Outdoors.
Welcome back. The folks that participate in rodeos truly are impressive. And thanks to photographers like Andy Watson, we get to see just how impressive these cowboys and cowgirls really are. MTN's Alina Howder reports.
In the dirt and on the ground. That's how professional PBR photographer Andy Watson captured this photo. But this kind of talent didn't happen overnight. Andy Watson has nearly 30 years of rodeo photography experience under his belt.
I grew up around horses and tried my hand at riding. Was not good at riding bulls, was not much better at riding bucking horses.
But there was something else that Three Forks resident Andy Watson found that he was great at.
It's my job to hunt photos, I call it. I'm always looking. I'm always trying to find interactions with guys, interactions with cowboys and fans, or fans and sponsors.
It was back in 1996 when the self-taught photographer first got his foot in the door at the Metra, selling the photos he captured of the Nile Rodeo to the PBR.
So I jumped in with both feet. I had no money. I was buying airplane tickets all over the country and trying to sell 8x10s to the riders and tried to make ends meet and 29 years later, here we are.
Now, Andy and his wife JC own Bullstock Media, a media production company that serves as the official photographer for the PBR.
Probably within the next year, I'll hit 700 Premier Series events, not counting all the rodeos and the Challenger tours and the other events that I've done.
700 events means he's seen all the changes when it comes to his art and the sport.
The speed of photography has changed. The cameras have changed. And it's good because with social media, with all the needs for photography, it's all instant. Everybody wants it right now.
And there's a reason why he's spent over 200 days out of the year on the road for nearly 3 decades.
This is the greatest sport there is. I love being here. I love everything about the cowboys, the bulls, the stock contractors, the crew that puts this whole thing on. It's a job, but it's not a real job. It's a fun job.
In Billings, Alina Howder, MTN News.
Thursday's first performance of the MSU Spring Rodeo was a celebration of the sport with a nearly full house packed into the Brick Breeden Fieldhouse, but it was also a celebration of the Bobcat Rodeo team, and in particular, one very successful alumni. Before horses started bucking, MSU recognized the 2023 College National Finals qualifiers, but when the spotlight came to Paige Rasmussen, there was an unexpected surprise. The Bobcats presented the Shoto native and Belgrade grad with a retired vest after a career in which she claimed an all-around national championship in 2021 and a goat tying national title last year.
The nostalgia of walking out on that dirt again, and then to see them carry that out for me and see my vest in a frame, it just felt surreal because it feels like just last week I was rodeoing and working towards that, and just to have my sister there and have my coaches there feels so amazing.
Well, Rasmussen graduated with a degree in psychology and is now working at MIT in Boston.
So I am doing brain neuroscience research at MIT, so I'm working in a laboratory where we do MRIs and we look at people's brains and we look at different brain disorders and see what we can do now to help people in the future with better treatments.
Though Paige has left Montana, her Montana values and upbringing will never leave her.
It's a way different lifestyle, way different pace of life, but all the things I learned, growing up in Montana as a cowgirl, that stuff helps me out there. Makes me gritty, makes me resilient, and so it really helps.
Tom Wiley, MTN Sports.
Some Yellowstone roads opened on Friday. Visitors are urged to be vigilant during spring operations. Yellowstone National Park reopened some roads for spring travel on Friday. Beginning at 8 a.m., drivers were able to travel from the west entrance to Old Faithful via Madison Junction, Mammoth Hot Springs to Old Faithful via Norris and Madison Junctions, and Norris Junction to Canyon Village. The north entrance in Gardner, Montana, and the northeast entrance in Cook City Silvergate are open year-round. Visitors are asked to be alert for changing weather conditions, expect limited services, and give wildlife lots of space. The park will open additional roads in May as weather permits. Thanks so much for joining me on this week's episode of MTN Outdoors. We hope you enjoyed yourself and that you'll join us right back here next week for another episode. Until then, stay safe, get out there, and have fun.